right, good afternoon and welcome. Let's see. Hi, Emily, I see you logged in. Hi, Nancy, I'm gonna make you co-host. Okay, Nancy, your microphone is muted. I don't know if you knew that. I'm gonna mute my microphone so that the controls are all yours. Just before I do that though, those of you who are just jumping on, if you have not done so already, please make sure that you've typed in your full name, full school name, and location into the chat box so that we can track your attendance. Please do not abbreviate your school. A lot of schools have the same abbreviation, so I want to make sure I'm sending your name and attendance to your campus. If your school has multiple campuses, also indicate the location of your school so we know we're sending it to the right campus. So again, information that has to go into the chat box: full name, full school name and location. And also just make sure that your microphones stay muted. With the large number of participants, it creates a lot of feedback. I will do my best to keep everybody manually muted. And I think that pretty much covers everything. Hey, Emily, do you know if I can have two co-hosts?
I don't. I'm not even sure how you, try it out. See if when you made yourself or Nancy co-host, see if it will allow me to be one also.
Okay, yeah. So all three of us are co-hosts, so we should be able to help and navigate keeping everybody's microphones muted. And then Nancy, I'm turning everything over to you.
Okay, so you want me to wait for 10 more minutes to start at 1 o'clock? 12 o'clock your time?
Yep, that would be perfect.
Okay.
So I'm just going to keep my microphone muted just because my dog's been barking all day. So
Okay, so I'll be starting in 9 more minutes.
9 more minutes and we'll get started.
Okay, great.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is Marie with your new school. For those of you who are just jumping on, if you can please make sure that you type in your full name, full school name, and location into the chat box for attendance purposes. That would be greatly appreciated. Please make sure that you do not abbreviate your school name, since there are so many schools with very similar, or if not the same, abbreviations. I want to make sure that I'm getting your attendance over to the right schools. So please, again, full name, full school name, and location into the chat box, and it's the location of your school, especially for schools that have multiple locations. Also, if you can please make sure that you keep your microphones muted so that it minimizes the amount of feedback. Myself and Emily, we will do our best to keep everybody muted throughout the presentation. And then we're going to be starting in about 5 minutes.
Marie, oh, never mind.
Okay, I'm just going to do one more announcement before you start, Nancy. For those of you who are just jumping on, if you have not done so already, please make sure that you type in your full name, your full school name, and location into the chat box for attendance purposes. Please do not abbreviate your school name. Please type in the full school name. And also, please keep your microphones muted during the presentation. We're going to get started in about just a minute. So again, full name, full school name, and location in the chat box for attendance purposes. If your name and school name does not appear in the chat box, there's no way I can track your attendance once the webinar ends. So again, please utilize the chat box to type in your school information and your name so that we can track your attendance. If for whatever reason you lose internet connection or you get kicked off, when you log back in, you don't have to type your name in again. Even though the information in the chat box disappears, it'll still be on my end, so don't worry about it. You don't have to retype in the information. Emily, did I miss anything? I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think we got it all.
All right, Nancy, everything is all controls are over to you. I'm going to mute my microphone. Everybody,
Okay.
this is Nancy West. She's the most amazing, talented, and inspiring makeup artist through ColorLab. So welcome, Nancy. Thank you so much for doing this for us. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys again today. You know, I have been in the cosmetic industry as a makeup artist for 47 years now. Hard to believe it's been that long. But you know what I found when I first started in the industry, and being from the West, I was in the Los Angeles area, and I went to the Fashion Institute, majored in merchandising, thought I wanted to be a buyer. And then one day I walked into a department store, which I had gone to many, many times. And it was like this light went off in my head. And I realized that cosmetics is what I was really drawn to. And I grew up in Las Vegas. Okay, so of course, a lot of adults came to visit and stay with us. And I remember what a difference it would make for them at night when they were getting ready to go out and party for the evening. And I would be there when I was a little older, and I'd be fixing their hair and doing their makeup and getting their clothes together. And you could see such a difference in how they felt about it. And so when I went into that department store that day, it was like this light went off in my head. It was like, this is what I really love. This is what I really have a passion for. So after I was done at the Fashion Institute, and of course, being in the Los Angeles area at that point, there were a variety of makeup schools here because of the studios. And so I found a school that I liked, and I went to school there. Now, the education 47 years ago compared to education today in cosmetics, it's totally different. I walked out of that school, and actually I felt more confused than I did before I started. Before I started, I thought I really knew what I was doing. After I went to school, I thought I don't know what I'm doing at all. But the key was to just dive into it and to study and to go to as many seminars, to read as much as I could, to learn. Also, I was very fortunate. I got a job with very beginning of my career. Now, back in the middle 70s, Redken used to have a skincare and cosmetic line called pH Plus. And that's who I went to work for. And they were a wonderful educational company. So I learned a lot from them, but I also continued to pursue my own knowledge and education through a variety of different channels. The one thing that I found as a young beginning makeup artist is, sure, if I had a young girl sitting in my chair, it was no problem. But when I had a more mature woman sat down, I would look at her, and in my head, I would go, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Because as we do mature in age, our features and characteristics can change just a little bit, just because of gravity and how the body and the face ages at that point. What I found was really the answer for me was really understanding the structure, the propelse, and the proportion of the face and working with that. So I got very involved in really strong analyzation, being able to look at the face, pull that face totally apart to see what it was, and then recreate it from that point. So what I'm going to cover with you today is what I found were the basic fundamentals that really helped me train my eye, because you have to train your eye to see. Now, I used to see myself in pictures, and we all have a high and a low side. We're not symmetric. Some people are going to be pretty close, but most of us are not. And in that picture, I would always see that my right side, my brow, sat a lot higher than it did on the other side. But when I looked into a mirror, I didn't see it. Why? Because our eyes compensate for us. And until we really train our eyes to see, there are things when we look at people that we just really don't pick up on. You know, unfortunately, sometimes I think today it's kind of a curse, because then I'll look at pictures in a magazine, or I'll look at things on TV, and I'll say, oh my gosh, look at this, look at that, you know, because my eye is so trained at looking at a face and really breaking down, you know, everything that I'm seeing when I look at that face. So this is where we're going to start today. Why isn't this moving? Okay. So we're going to talk about structure, balance, and proportion. And that has to do with your bone structure and the planes of the face. The planes of the face have to do with where the face moves and curves. Next, we're going to go into proportion, and we're going to talk about horizontally how the face is divided. We're going to look at the symmetry. We're going to look at the profile of the chin from the side and what we're looking for when we do that. Talking about the distance of the eyes, profile of the eyes, and characteristics of the eyes. Because when we're doing makeup, eyes are the one area that we like to do a lot of different things in, right? So those are what we're going to talk about. So to begin with, what do we care about? Structure, balance, and proportion. Well, in order to apply makeup that's going to be complementary to that client's face, you have to understand how to read the client's face and what the facial features are. The structure, the balance, and proportion are three components that are going to help you determine what you're going to do in that application. When all three of those are aligned, then we start to see the face as more perfect. Now, perfect today is not the same type of perfect when I was growing up. Okay, when I was growing up, all of the models in the magazines had the same face shape. They have these oval faces. They had large cheekbones with great indentation. They had large lids with nice sockets, high frontal bone areas. All of our models look the same. We don't see that today. Our ideals of what is considered pretty today and attractive today is different than it used to be. We don't try to take and create an oval face out of all of our clients. You know, you look in your magazines, you see a lot of models in there that have square faces, strong square jawlines. You'll see models in there that don't hardly have any lid that shows, okay? That might have a low frontal area or a high frontal area. So our ideals of attractiveness are different. Thank goodness. You know, they're more open and we see beauty in many different ways today. So what kind of face shape do they have? Well, I'm going to be honest. For me, as far as a makeup artist, I don't really care what kind of face shape they have. If you're a hairdresser and you're cutting hair, yes, that is important for you to know that. But as a makeup artist, and for my style of makeup, I'm not trying to create an oval face shape out of something. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to that client. If that client comes into me and they've got a square face and they've got a square jawline, and I ask them, because I want to find out how do they feel about themselves. You know, what would they like to work on? What would they like to be able to either bring out or maybe minimize a little bit more? If that client doesn't say anything to me about their square jawline, I'm not going to go and say, oh, well, you've got a square jawline. And if we want to shade that out. So we're going to blah, 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 this and that. I wish I had a square jawline. I love a square jawline. So you want to work with makeup as an individual. That's what keeps makeup exciting and keeps it fun. And that's the challenge of it, because every client that sits down in your chair is an individual of their own. They have their own personality. And more so today, every client is looking for their own uniqueness. That's what they're wanting to bring out. So I personally don't spend a lot of time with structure. With face shapes. I'm more interested, as you see in the second line there, with structure, balance, and proportion, okay? And trying to create the illusion of more evenness to the features on their face. So when I look at a client, and I've communicated with them, you know, there are going to be areas that I'm going to make some adjustments to correct balance on their face. There are some areas that, depending on how the client feels, that I'm not going to bring it up, because we've got to be careful on what we say to women, because when they come to you and you are a professional, when you're licensed and you're out there working, they look at you as a holy grail, so to say, and what you say, they take to heart. So think about how you talk to people, how you explain things to people, and keep things on what I say a little bit of a lighter edge when we're dealing with makeup. Also, we're going to talk about where is the best placement when you're putting color on. So the most important thing is dealing with the bone structure of the face and the planes of the face. Now, when you look to the picture there, what you see is you see those lines going around the face. Those are plane changes in the face. Now, we don't have solid lines in the face, but you see right here in the center, and then about right here, which is right almost around the beginning of the brow, you have a plane change where the front of the forehead starts to now curve over into the side of the forehead. These are important things to look at because when you're placing color on a face, and right now I'm going to talk about just shading and highlighting, just using light and dark colors, okay? Your placement on that face is going to make a huge difference as to the outcome of what the makeup looks like. So when we're looking at bone structure and muscle structure, it's what creates the shape of the face. We all extend and indent in the same areas. Some people more dramatically than others. So this is what we're going to look at. Now, as far as placement goes, do we want to de-emphasize an area or do we want to emphasize an area? Now, I asked Marie to have all of you have a mirror with you and to have some hand sanitizer and to not have makeup on your face. Well, of course, I couldn't come on without any makeup on my face. So I do have lipstick on. I do have my foundation and my brows on my face. Okay, and of course, some concealer at the same time. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your hand sanitizer. Let's sanitize our hands because we're going to go in and touch and feel the face. Now, where I went to makeup school, all of our had, because it was studio work, all of our work had to begin with brushes or sponges. Okay, we weren't allowed to touch the face. So once I got out of school and started working, I couldn't wait to get my hands on that face because I wanted to touch it. I wanted to feel it. So I think in the very beginning, it's important for us because it helps us to visually start seeing the face better. You know, they say a blind person can see through their touch. And that's because they're going and they're feeling what that structure feels like, what that texture may feel like, you know, when they're doing that. So that's what we're going to do right now. So have your hand sanitizer. I want you to be all ready, and I want you to follow along with me and do the same thing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start at the very top of the hairline up here. And I just want you to bring your fingers and your hands down and around, and you can feel right here at the top of the hairline how the bone kind of rounds out through that area. Now also, while you're up here at the top, I want you to bring your fingers over to the side. Now about right here, you're going to feel where the top and the front section starts to curve. And then you feel it curve over. Now about right here, you're going to feel another plane change that goes on right through this area. So we've got 3 sections going across the forehead area. Why is that important? Well, let's say you're working with a client who carries a really wide forehead, and we want to taper that forehead down. What you're going to use is you're going to use these planes right through here, and you're going to shade this part of the forehead to set that area back, highlight through the center to bring that out and create more curvature and minimize the sides of the forehead. The other thing that we want to look at with this is maybe a client doesn't carry a lot of width on the forehead and you want to widen it, then you're going to highlight right across these areas through that. Okay, let's go back up to the top. So now we went across the side up through here. I want you to go down and you feel it round, and you may feel just a slight little indentation right through here in the center. Some people are more dramatic than others, and I find a lot of men will carry more strength of structure like that, where they have that indentation right through the center of the forehead area. Okay, and then drop down a little farther and you feel the extension onto the brow bone. Now I want you to take your fingers, start here at the inside of the brow, and feel how it narrows, and then as you work your way out, the bone becomes fuller, wider, and more extended as it rounds out through that area. Let's go back up here into the center of the forehead, and again, you'll feel the center area right here. You feel that plane change. Bring it across right here. You feel another plane change. And now I want you to drop down into the temple area and take your hands and just massage that area so you can feel the top of the bone. You can feel the orbital socket of the bone is going in through that area. And then you feel the cheekbone kicking out right below that indentation. Look how the bone rounds through there, okay? In fact, take your fingers, place it right on the sides of the cheekbone and feel the roundness of that bone. So the high part of the bone goes into the temple, it rounds, and then it goes down underneath at that point. So let's continue down the side of the face. We're in the temple area. We're extending out. We're feeling the top of the cheekbone. Now I want you to walk your fingers in, and you can feel how that top of the cheekbone extends out right underneath the eye with a soft angle going to it. Next, flatten your hands right onto the side of the face, and then you can curve it like this, and you can feel it gets to a point where you're not touching bone anymore. Take your thumbs now. I want you to take your thumbs, and I want you to tuck your thumbs underneath the bottom of the cheekbone, okay? So when we think about the cheekbone, you've got the base of the cheekbone, you've got the side of the cheekbone, and then you've got the top of the cheekbone. So when you look at that picture there, you can see those different plane changes. Now, I want you to start with your fingers right here on the outside, and now I want you to follow that cheekbone in. You feel how it's more narrow here, and it becomes wider and fuller as you move into the center of the face. Now, if you're like me, you used to call my face a fat face, but it is not a fat face. It's a cheeky face, okay? I've got very full cheeks. So with that, I have a lot of skin that fits into that area. So let's go back underneath the base of the cheekbone again. Now what I want you to do is let me take these earrings off. I want you to follow down the face, and I want you to take your fingers and go right underneath and behind the jawbone here, okay? And then I want you to take your thumb, latch it here, and then follow it out. So almost right out here, it's an L kind of form that you see. So it's an angle that you're going into. That's really important when you're working with a client that maybe has a weak jawline out through this area and you want to strengthen that jawline up. To do that, you're going to shade. You're going to start your shader back here. Okay, it's going to be underneath the ear. It's not going to be on the bone whatsoever. It's going to be behind the bone where you're going to go in and shade, and then you're going to stay under the bone to follow it in. All right? So that's going to help create more strength to a client that has a very weak jawline on them. And I don't carry a strong jawline. That's probably why I always wanted one of those square jawlines, because I love a nice strong jawline on a client. But I could work on creating the illusion of one. All right, now I want you to stay underneath it. And what I want you to do is I want you to put your thumb underneath the jawbone, and then I want you to the top of the jawbone and follow that line. So that starts coming down, and right here at the outer corners of the mouth, you start to feel a difference in the planes of the face. So now is where you're going into your chin. So think about your chin going from the outer corners of the mouth and then rounding out and down through this area. Also, I want you to take your thumbs right underneath that chin. If you've got a client that carries, I call it fullness underneath the chin. I do not tell a woman she has a double chin. Okay, I do not tell her she has a weak jawline. I tell her what I want to do is I'm going to strengthen your jawline up. So again, think about your terminology when you're speaking with a woman. Okay, so underneath here, if you've got a client who carries more fullness underneath this area, you're going to go in and you're going to shade from this area back to the throat. So if you look back, it's wider here, and then it tapers in through here. So I want you to take your fingers, have your index finger below your chin, have your thumb going back to where it meets your throat, follow it across and feel the taper, okay? So if that client, again, is carrying that fullness, you're gonna shade underneath here, back to the throat, and then again, it really depends on what their structure looks like as to how far over you're going to take it. Some people might just have that fullness down through here. Some people may carry the fullness all the way across through this area. In that situation, you're going to follow underneath the bone. If you take that darker color and you put it right onto the side of the bone, what you're doing now is you're cutting the jawline down at that point. So in makeup, a small distance can make a huge difference of being right or being wrong when you're working on that client. Okay, now we're going to go back up to the center of the face, right around the brow area again. We felt the eye area, and we felt how right here where the brows begin, it's a little bit of a flatter area. And then as we follow it out and across, it becomes fuller and more wide as it rounds out. Now close your eyes, and I want you to take your index finger, go right to the very inner corner of the eye, and feel that orbital socket where you can feel your eyeball sits right into it and the roundness of it. I want you to continue with your fingers right underneath the eye, and you can feel again how the eyeball fits into that orbital socket area. Next, I want you to take your index finger, place it at the very inner corner of the eyelid, okay? Now, it indents in this area. Let your finger round out. You can feel right above the center of the iris. The lid extends out, and then walk your fingers over. You'll feel 2/3 of the way out, then it starts to curve back down into the outside corner of the eyes. So when we're looking at the eyes, okay, we have indentation on the lid, extension over the center of the iris, and then indentation from that point to the outside corner of the eye. Of course, the complete socket is an indented area, and then we've got the top section that is a little flatter on the inside, becomes more fuller, more extended in the center, and then starts to curve in the outside section. I'm going to get into the eyes a little bit more as we go through this program, because that's something I think very important for you to know and understand the different characteristics that a client carries in their eyes, because we don't just carry one characteristic. Some people can have 2 or 3 different characteristics with their eyes. So it's like putting a puzzle together when you're working with it. Let's head down to the nose next, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to place your index finger right on the top and the center of the nose. And I want you to just rock it both ways, okay? Now, the nose is not flat on the top, but when you rock it, you feel a ridge on both sides here, don't you? So you've got the top of the nose, and then you've got the side of the nose, and then it comes down into the face at that point. As you bring your fingers down the nose, you get to the nostril area right through here, and you find the nostril area flares out and around. From that point and across is the tip or the ball of the nose that you're working with. So when we're working with the nose, and let's say we want to thin a nose down, depending on the amount of lightness left in the center, will create the illusion of how wide or how narrow that face is going to appear, or I should say that nose is going to appear when you look at it. So when you work on somebody's nose, there's a lot of intricate pieces we need to go in and we need to break down on it. First of all, I'm looking at the width all the way down the nose, okay? Are they narrow, okay? Are they carrying more width? If you've got that client that carries more width through this area, then we're going to shade right over the ridge of the nose, leaving a small amount of lightness down to the center of the nose. Depending on how far down you bring a light color, if I take a light color and bring it right down the center of the nose, over the tip and underneath, what I've done just then is I've elongated the nose, okay? So remember, everything I'm going to talk about right now is light and dark, light and dark. What is it going to do when you put it on the face? Anytime you put a light color on the face, it's going to start creating extension. But that light color needs to be at least 2 shades lighter than the depth of the skin. Now, the lighter you go than that, the more action you're going to achieve. When you are trying to set an area back or soften it down or minimize it out, you need to have a 2-shade difference. Again, the darker you go, the more dramatic it becomes. So when we're working with our clients, we're doing what I call streetwear makeup. We're not doing stage makeup. So that means 2 stage difference, 3 at the max. It's really about as far as you need to go. If you start going more dramatic with your shade difference from the depth of the skin, then what happens is it starts to stand out too much. And we're not looking for the makeup to stand out. We're just looking for the illusion that we're trying to create to be seen. That's all. So 2 shade difference from the depth of the skin. So I'm going to shade here on the top, but if I don't want to elongate the nose, but I want to thin the nose down, I'm only going to highlight down to where the nostril line is, right through this area, okay? Or you might take it a little bit farther. But the key is, unless you want to elongate somebody's nose, you don't want to take that highlighter all the way down and underneath the tip of the nose. I gotta be honest, in all my years in the cosmetic industry, I have not had one client ever ask me to make their nose bigger. Everybody always wants to make their nose smaller. They want to make it more narrow. Okay, so never had anybody wanted to make it any bigger at that point. Next, well, now you've got to look at the nostril area, because when we look at it, the nose tapers down, the nostril area pops out. So let's say you're working with a client and they have a much wider nose, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to come down the sides, and then you want to, if their nostril area comes out also and you want to make that appear smaller, you're going to go right over the nostril area and make sure you get underneath the area at the same time. So you're going to bring it down and you're going to go underneath and pull it onto the sides of the nostrils. Another thing you're going to find is you're going to find another individual that might have a nose that's all the same, going from the very top down to the bottom. They don't have a big indentation or extension right here at the nostril area. And with that, if you want to create more balance in the nose, you would shade down, okay? But when you get to the nostril area, you don't want to cover the nostril area. On this client, you're going to go in with a light color, and you're going to go in and you're going to lighten that nostril area and right underneath, and it's going to create the illusion of more dimension into the nose, just not all one straight line to it at that point. Let's say that they want to shorten their nose, okay? Now, if you can take your finger, and I want you to put right here on the tip of the nose, and roll your finger back and forth. So you can feel right here where the ball of the nose and the tip of this is. If you want to shorten that nose, you're going to go right there where the top of that area starts to curve, and that's where you're going to go in and you're going to put a darker color and you're going to pull it and wrap it down below the nose area. Now, when I talked about light and dark, do I want that to be a matte color? Do I want it to be a luminescent color? Well, first of all, when I'm doing shading on a face for structure, I do not use a shader that has luminescence to it. Because if you take a dark color and it has a luminescence to it, it has light reflection to it. And depending on how light may hit that color, it can almost, even though it's a dark color with light reflection, it can almost create a little bit of an extension to the area. So when I'm working with my shader colors, I always work with a matte color. My highlighters, though, can vary. If I'm highlighting the cheekbone, somebody needs to turn their microphone off, please. If I am working with a cheekbone, hey, I don't mind putting a luminescent color on that cheekbone to pop that cheekbone out. You know, I could put some down the center of the face. It all depends on the makeup that I'm doing for a client. Let's say I'm doing a jawline area, and I've gone in here and I've shaded underneath this. So if I want to counterbalance it to bring the jawbone out, then I'm going to go in with a highlighter that's going to be matte, because this is not an area where we see natural illumination on the face. And I'm going to use that jawbone as a guideline, and I'm going to highlight the top of that jawbone. So I'm shading under here, and I'm highlighting on the top of this area. So again, light and dark, light and dark. What is it going to do? And think about the finish of the color that you are working with. Now, once we dip below the nose, you have this indentation right through this area. And then right at the center of the nostril area, you have the extension part. right at the top of the extension is where the peaks of the lip are. Some people are more dramatic than others. Like I'm very strong structured right through this area. So I'm not a client who wants to go in with a shader and shade that little barrel area in there and highlight on the top of those flares, because that's even going to make it more dramatic on me, and it's dramatic enough as it is at that point. All right, but maybe you want to create more structure around the client's lip and they don't have that structure right through there. Then you're going to go in, you're going to shade right through here, highlight, and then you can create a little M highlight right above the upper part of the lip there. And it's going to create the illusion of more dimension in through that part. Now, as we go down below the nose and we feel that barrel and that flare, then I want you to feel the rim of your lips, because it has a slight V formation on the inside, and then the rim goes out. So the top lip has a slight M formation to it. When you feel the bottom part of the lip, it's a crescent shape formation that you're feeling on that. And again, lips are very personal when you're working with people. Some people want to go in and really overdraw the lip area and they feel comfortable with it. Other people, if you go in and overdraw their lip, they're going to say, that's not me, I'm not comfortable with that. So again, that's a big part of being a makeup artist, finding the right comfort zone for that client, so you're going to do something that they're going to feel good with. As we go below the bottom of the lip, right here in the center, you'll feel that indentation, and that's where the ball of the chin starts. So you feel the indentation, it extends out, follow it around. Right here, it starts to curve and tuck underneath. Also, as we talked about earlier, if you go down, you can feel the chin begins right here at the outer corners of the mouth, right through this area. Now, I'm going to talk about chins a little bit later and what you're going to do with that area of the face. So again, let's go through, I want to go through the entire face one more time and feel that structure. So let's start again at the top. It rounds and extends out. Drop it down, you'll feel a slight indentation. Take it out to the side, you feel your plane changes as you go out. Go back into the center, drop down into the beginning of the brow. Feel how the brow bone is flat on the inside and becomes fuller and more extended as you go out. Okay, drop down into the socket of the eye. Feel the crescent shape formation there. Feel the lid, how it indents in the inner corner, extends over the center of the iris, and then starts to indent in the outside corner of the eye. I want you to bring your hands back up to the top side of hairline, and I want you to go down. You feel that indentation in the temple area. You feel the top of the cheekbone extend out. You feel the roundness of the bone, and then tuck under, where the bone is thinner here and becomes fuller as it extends out. Continue down the outside of the face. Tuck your thumbs underneath the back of that jawline, following underneath, and follow on the top at the same time, and it V's in towards the chin. We're going to go back onto the top of the nose here. Rotate your finger back and forth. Feel the ridges on both sides. Bring it down. Feel how the nose starts to become a little wider as it goes down. Feel the indentation in the nostril area, the ball, the tip of the nose, and how the nostrils curve out. Drop underneath there. Feel the indentation in the temple, the flares that come out, and then feel that M formation on the top lip, crescent on the bottom. Grab the chin area right below that. Feel how it extends out, and then how it rounds and curves under. So that's what you're dealing with bone structure. Now, proportionate throws in things, so faces all look different, okay? Muscle structure makes a difference with that, and we have other features and characteristics that we'll carry at the same time. Okay. So, symmetry. You know, there's a saying in makeup, I have to share this with you. I mean, there's a saying in makeup, our brows are sisters, they're not twins, okay? So I went through breast cancer and I had to go in and have reconstructive surgery on one of my breasts. And after the surgery, I'm meeting with the doctor and we're kind of talking about the symmetry. And he says to me, they're sisters, they're not twins. And I roared. I could not believe a plastic surgeon was using that same terminology. You know? This is what you start to see. Now, some people have fairly even symmetry, but there's a lot of people that don't have even symmetry. And I didn't notice it for years until my eye really began trained to look at that. So you'll see one side of the face is different than the other side of the face. One side, the brow sits a little higher, the eye opens up a little bit more, the cheekbone lifts a little bit more with a little more indentation, and your jawline looks a little tighter. On the other side, the brow might not sit up as high. The lid might not even open quite as much, okay? This side of the face looks a little bit fuller at the same time. So when we're doing makeup, our goal also is to create the illusion of balancing the symmetry of the face. So let's take a look at some pictures here. So this is Christy Turlington. She was a model for many, many years. And you see her original picture on the left. Now, the center picture there are the two left sides together. I want you to look at her brow structure. Look at those great brows right there. And look at how her eyes have that lift. I want you to also look at her jawline. Look at how her jawline has more squareness to it and more width to it. And then look down at her chin. Look at how her chin almost has a flatness across the bottom and carries more strength. Now look over to the right picture. Look at the difference in the brow structure. And now I want you to flip back and look at that original picture. Now that you see those two left sides together and right sides together, and look at the brow structure now. So now you can see, oh, that is different. Next, when you look at the eyes, look at how on the right side, the eyes look to have more of an openness and not lifting quite as much in the outer corner compared to the left side. Next, look at the difference with the nose. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you can see the right side, the nose sits in a little bit more, and it creates the illusion when you put those two right sides together that the nose is much slimmer and much smaller compared to when you put both of the left sides together. And look at the lips. Look at how the lips are bigger and fuller on the left side. When you look at the right side, the mouth is smaller looking. It doesn't extend as far. It's not quite as full as the other side is. So that helps you to start looking at symmetry. And, you know, when I was younger and beginning and looking at these things, what I would do is I would pull pictures out of a magazine, and I would take a ruler and I would split the face right in half. And then I would focus on the left side of the face and I would focus on the right side. Again, strengthening my eye to see the difference within the symmetry of the face and working with it. When we're applying makeup, it's doing little alterations to create the illusion of having more balance. Look at this kid. Okay, so we look at the first original picture there. Next, we go into the left side of his face. And when we're looking at that, look at the left side of his face. Look at his forehead region. Look how his forehead region looks wider there. When you look at the right side of the face, look how it looks more narrow at that point. Look at on the left side, how the brows lift the eyes more. And the eyes are more lifted and more open compared to when you look on the right side. Look at the nose structure. Look at the difference in the structure of the nose when you got two left sides together compared to having two right sides together. You can see two left sides together, the nose looks like it's wider, correct? Okay, and look at the nostril area. This is somebody who, when you look at the nose coming down, you don't see a lot of extension in the nostril area. The nose almost stays about the same size going all the way down with this. And look how much more narrow the face is. Look at the jawline. The jawline doesn't have the same strength as when you look over to the other picture. Look at the chin. Look how the chin rounds in the one picture. Look how it squares out in the next one. Again, symmetry. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is proportionately. The face is divided into three sections, from the center of the forehead to the bottom of the brow, from the bottom of the brow to the bottom of the nose, from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. If we are looking for perfect proportion, That's how the face should equal up in each one of their sections. Some people have it, some people don't have it. Now, what I did, because with my company, is when I had my own cosmetic company, I was named Cosmetic Design Center. Okay, that was the name. And our focus is that we would teach clients how to read their face, how to train their eye to actually see what they were doing. So I was very big into helping them understand structure, balance, and proportion. So I had rulers made that my artists, when they were going into a lesson working with a client, we would go into deep analyzation so that client could start understanding and train their eye to visually see what they're working on. So with this, you're going to take a ruler, you're going to start at the top of the hairline, and I just place my hand right there. I place the ruler at this point. Take your finger, go across the bottom, and that's the first section. Yeah, I have my glasses on, so I can't even read what that says. So let me do it this way. So I'm starting there, I'm going to the base of the brow. I know it's right there at that point. I'm like 2 1/4 inches. Next, I'm going to take that ruler. I'm going to go down right underneath the bottom of the brow. I'm going to take my finger across, and right through that area, I see that I'm 2 1/4 inches also. So I'm the same height from this area to this area. Now, when I take that ruler and I place it right underneath the nose and go to the bottom of the chin, I find that I am 2 3/4 inches. So that means that I'm equal, and I carry length in the lower part of my face. I would do this so it would be dramatic because I wanted them to see. And by measuring the face out, they could actually see the difference with it that way. Okay, now with a face like this, and all I'm talking about is proportion right now. For an individual who carries length on the lower part of their face, what you would do is you would go in and you would, you feel your chin. I want you to feel right here on the crest of your chin. Right underneath the chin, right here, is where you would go in and you would shade that area. Again, that's going to be a brown tone that I'm going to use through this area and shade it right back. And that's going to minimize that area of the face, okay? Let's say that when I measured this down, that I found that they were 2 1/2 inches on the top, 2 1/4 inches on the bottom, and 2 1/2 inches in the center, and 2 1/2 inches on the bottom of the face. Okay, when a client is short in the center of the face from this area to this area, placement of blush is very important with them. If they take their blush and they bring it up too high on the cheekbone area, what it does is it even shortens the center of the face more, because now it's pushing their eye color and makeup and their blush together, and it's throwing out the proportion more because they probably haven't brought it down to the base of the cheekbone, is normally what I find. So now it makes the lower part of the face appear like it's longer. So what is important when that client is short through this area, you want to make sure, and I teach a client, go in and feel it, that structure. So I'll show them, take a brush, put it right underneath the bottom of the cheekbone. That's where you want your color to start. You don't want your color up here, you want it here and just graduate it over the top of the cheekbone, leaving good lightness up through here to create the illusion of more width being through that area. If they carry more length into this part of the face, then they just have really more space that they're putting their blush in at that point. I am always going to start my blush right here at the bottom of the cheekbone because I want it proportionally to be right onto the face. I don't want to drop it down, okay, lower through here, because again, what that's going to do, it's going to cut the lower part of the face at that point. Let's go back and let's say with this client that they carry more shortness on the bottom of the face through this area. In that situation, instead of a shader, you're going to take a highlighter and you're going to highlight right from the crest to the bottom of that chin back through this area, again, using the outer corners of the mouth as your guideline as to where that's going to go. And that's going to elongate this part of the face. Up on the forehead area, if they carry length up through here, we're going to shade, and we're going to shade right across the top of that hairline area, depending on how much length they carry through that area. If they're short through this area, we're going to highlight, and we're going to highlight right across that area. So everything that we're talking about, light and dark, what is it going to do? When you look at an area and you know that you want to minimize or soften that area, automatically think a darker color. If you look at an area and think, I want to bring that out, I want to make it stand out, I want to make it look larger, I want to make it look longer, think about using a light color in that area. So proportion is very important when you're looking at the face.
I'm going to take JJ's stuff into his bathroom to brush his teeth.
Somebody has their speaker on, so if you could please turn that off. Next, we're looking at the profile of the chin. From the side, when we measure from the side, the top lip, bottom lip, and the chin should all extend at the same distance and create a straight line. If the chin does not extend as far as the top lip and the bottom lip, you have a receded chin. In that situation, right here from the indentation line down to before the chin starts to curve underneath, you're going to highlight the front of this chin. If they carry extension onto the chin, you're going to shade this area on the front of the chin to set that area back and minimize it a little bit more. And then a lot of people are equal at that. Another thing that you may find with people is that they may have carried length in the bottom of their face and have a receded chin at the same time. That's a pretty common characteristic. So in that situation, I'm going to highlight right through this area, and then I'm going to shade right through this area to shorten this part of the face and extend the chin through here. So extended chin or receded chin. Next, eyes. Okay, eyes are the one area that we can do a lot of different things with. You know, I mean, put different colors, create different designs, have a lot of fun with them. So these are characteristics that you're looking for with the eyes. First of all, and this is like a mantra I have in my head. When I look at a client and I'm starting to work with them, I do a quick analyzation of their eyes. Are they close set, wide set, or are they equal? Okay, so that has to do with this distance between the eyes. Next, are they deep set, or do they have an extended lid, or are they equal? That's measuring from the side, the brow bone at the center of the eyelid, because that's the most extended part of the eye, and the cheekbone. When you put a straight edge up against it, should be even. The lashes should be touching that, not the lashes, but the actual skin on the lid. Now, if you have somebody with an extended lid, you're not going to be able to place a tool there without creating too much pressure on their lid, all right? Close set eyes. I do a quick thing. I'll take my brush, put it at the inner corner of the eye here, take my finger, put it at the outer corner of the eye, and then take it, put it in between, so I can do a quick measurement. Are those eyes wide set, close set, or are they equal? Deep set, again, we're dealing with this. You can't place this tool without putting too much pressure on the lid and rest it right in the center. And again, we're using the center of the iris because that's the most extended part of the eye. Fullness in the frontal area also might be called a hooded eye or a puffy eye. Okay, it's where you have this excess skin right up through here that can sit down on the lid. Now, when you mature in age, that can become an acquired characteristic. You like that? So this is something as we've matured, our collagen and elastic fibers have relaxed, and now all of a sudden we're getting more puffiness, more sagging right above this area. So that is from the socket of the eye, the skin that's coming over and hanging down through there. Next, a prominent brow bone. With the prominent brow bone, you're going to notice a very deep socket in a client's eyes, and then the bone standing out. All right. From there, a drop at the outer corner. I tell a woman she has a droopy eye. I had a hotel I used to do a lot of seminars in, and I got to know the manager of the hotel really well. She had gone to a cosmetic counter, and the person behind the counter told her she had droopy eyes. Now, this woman had large, round, blue, these incredible blue eyes, strong lid, nice socket, nice frontal area. Okay, now, as she has matured in age, yes, there was a little drop, and what you'll find as we mature in age, is you can get a little bit of a slant angle line right here at the outside corner that creates a little drop. She did not have a movie eye. She was distraught over that. That's why I always say, be careful what you say to people. Next, we want to look at creeping. Creeping is, again, happens as we mature in age. All of everything is relaxed, and we get all these little crisscross lines and loose texture into the skin. Then you look at the shapes of eyes. Shapes can be an almond eye, has a slipped, a round eye, more circular, straight, doesn't have a lot of opening right about the center of the iris, and monolid, meaning more Asian, they don't carry much of a lid on their eye. Now, distance, as I was talking about, close set or wide set, you should be able to place an imaginary third eye, the same length as your own eye in between the two. If you can't do that, if the eyes are close set, then you're going to take a light color and you're going to take it right here on the side of the bridge of the nose, and you're going to take it right into the crease of the eye. And you might lighten the very inner corner of the eye also. That's going to pull it apart. If you're dealing with somebody who has a close set eye, I'm sorry, I don't remember what I said. Close set eye that I was just talking about. Wide set eye, what you're going to notice is more width through here. You're going to take a shader and you're going to take it right here from the inner corner of the eye, and you're going to take it right into the socket of the eye at that point. So that's going to bring the eyes closer together. So you've already dealt with that. Next, is this somebody who has close set eyes? Okay, look to the left. Sarah Jessica Parker. I know that name isn't right for some reason. But look at how thin her bridge area is. Okay, so going in there, highlighting that is going to pull those eyes apart more so. And then you see another close set eye, and look how they've lightened right on the inner part, but they've shaded her nose right there on the section. So they did enough to create some width right through the area. Next, wide set eyes. You can look at these and you can see how there's more spacing, there's more flatness between the bridge of the nose right through this area. Okay, so look at how the picture to the right, they've gone in and they've shaded the nose in, and then they started the eyes and they brought the eyes out more at that point, because they've already taken care of what that problem is there with being wide set. On the other picture, you can see they've not gone in and shaded that area, and look at how much white space you have in between. It really makes the eyes set wide apart. And I'm not saying that's not attractive, okay? It's just a feature characteristic. Next, as a minute ago, you should be able to place a straight edge tool right in the center of the iris, which is the most extended part, and that determines whether a lid is deep set, extended, or equal. Okay, so deep set lid sets back a little bit more. A lot of times you may notice somebody who has a deep set lid might carry a little more prominency with their brow bone at the same time. Correction-wise, if you want to bring a deep set lid out, you're going to put a light color on it. My philosophy is I don't want to tag myself and lock myself into always doing something the same way. So for a deep set lid, I know if I go in and I lighten the inner third to inner half of that lid and pop it out, I can go in with some darker colors and wrap that eye around if I want to do that. Okay. Okay, extended lid. Especially look at the picture to the right. You can see, especially when she turns over in the top picture, you can see how that lid extends out more. Also, when you look to the picture to the left, a correction that you can do with an extended lid is look at how they've thickened the liner right over the center of the eye. It tapers in, it widens out, and then of course from that point she pulls it out at that point. So an extended lid, we basically say the more depth you can create right here at the base, it just kind of softens and pulls that lid area back. Fullness in the frontal area, a hooded eye or a puffy eye, okay? When you're working with that characteristic, the key is, and I tell people, because a lot of people are doing eye makeup and they have them close their eye and they go in and they're working the socket. Well, when you're dealing with a puffy or a hooded eye, what happens is when they open their eyes, the skin rolls over and you can't see that color that you put on. So when I'm working with a client that has that characteristic in their eye, What I have them do is I want them to look straight ahead. And with them looking straight ahead, I take my brush and I put the color into the area that I need it to be. So I know I've got it to the right level. Then I have them look down on the ground. I personally don't have clients close their eyes when I work on their eyes. I like to keep the muscles just a little taut. So I have them look down, and then I can go in and I can get into the socket and blend it from that point. Now, when you're dealing with more of a hooded eye and you're dealing with more mature skin, you may also find that that skin moves when you go to put the color on with it. So sometimes working against the movement of the skin, you're going to be able to lay a color down more. To the picture over to the right, if I wanted to camouflage that, so to say, more, I would have taken my darker color farther in through this area and darkened it. Now, look at that picture on the right. Look at the line above where that puffiness is. From that point, if you want to minimize that puffiness, you want to take that medium depth color up to that point, and where you see that indentation in the eye, that's where you can start fading that color out and have a highlighter below the brow. So you'll find on many puffy eyes, there's that little, I don't want to call it a demarcation, but you'll see a little line of difference where you see the puff kind of stop and then the regular eye comes back. Droop at the outer corner, okay? That drop at the outer corner of the eye, as you can see, Marilyn had that. She had those sleepy eyes in the outside corner. You can see the drop in the outside corner. What you'll normally find, usually from about the center of the eye down, is where you see the eye start to angle down through that area. Now, if you look at the picture over there on the right, you can see how they've taken that shadow on the outside and pulled it up to the top. Now, personally, I would have brought that up higher, and that would have lifted the droopy eye. I know a lot of times you'll read in a magazine or a book, it says what you want to do with the droopy eyes, you want to take your shadow and you want to lift your shadow out here. If you do that, but you don't pay attention to the line underneath the eye, you're still creating, you still have that drop there. So for me, my important thing when I'm dealing with an eye that drops in the outside, I'm going to widen my liner here and pull it up into the upper part of the eye to lift the eye from the bottom up into the top. Okay, so you can see this is a picture that shows doing that and the difference that it makes. And look at how widening it, pulling it, and creating an angle line to lift the eye, lifts the eye upwards compared to the picture on the left. I know I'm running right on the edge of time here. Prominent brow bone. Okay, Katie Couric had that prominent brow bone, and she also had a deep set lid at the same time. So as I said earlier, you may find, I find numerous times, somebody might have a deep set lid that's close set with a prominent brow bone. So you've got three things that you're working with there. Deep set lid, I want to lighten the inner part to bring it out. Close set eyes, I want to lighten on the bridge of the nose. Prominent brow bone, I want to take at least a medium depth color up in the extension of that bone, but not all the way up to the brow to minimize it down. These are the clients that we look at and go, oh my goodness, now I don't have that problem because this is more me. But I tell people when you're working, especially with a client with a picture to the left there, there's not a lot that you can do with those eyes. I create more attention with liner on the eyes where I'll go in and I'll use some type of a color liner on their eyes to draw attention to it. Right up through that area of fullness, I'm going to go in and put a shader in there because I want to soften that down. And this is a client, I'm going to get a little more color on their lips. I find as we mature in age, we need a little bit more life with our lips compared to when we're younger. I wear more color today on my lips than I ever wore in my younger years, okay? But it creates life, it brings color. Also with this client, I flush their blush a little bit more. I bring their blush in. I'm not necessarily trying to create that strong angular look with their face and working with blush on them. Also, when you work with these eye characteristics, this eye characteristic that you're going to work out kind of halfway across. Now, if you continue to work out, what you may find is you end up with these little slant angle lines that don't get any color in it because the skin is smooth. Keep your pressure light. But again, when you're dealing with the skin that's loose, sometimes it doesn't matter. If you work against the movement of the skin, you can blend it in. Another thing you might do with a little pressure, just lift up on that area so you can get a nice smooth line into it at the same time. Almond shaped eyes, beautiful, nice lift at the outside corner. This is what is a straight eye, okay? You look at an eye, look at the center, okay? If you look at an eye right through the center of the iris, it's the most open part of the eye. When I look at these eyes, you can see it's not a real open eye right through the center of the eye. This is a client that I'm not necessarily going to go in and wrap liner all the way around their eye, because all it's going to do is close it in. I'm going to keep my liner more so center of the eye out, widen this out, and lift the eye up at that point. And then a round eye, which you'll notice with a round eye a lot, especially looking at the picture on the left, you'll notice that the iris of the eye, you might see a little white right underneath that. So a very rounded eye. And then your monolid, as you can see, you don't see much of a lid on that eye. Now we could take that eye to the left that doesn't have a lid, but we could go and enlighten right through that area. We could go right where you start to see that little indentation, take a medium depth color and create the illusion of her having more of a lid on her eye and then showing a socket off at that point. Okay, so one other thing. Let me see what my timing is. I don't have time for, but I hope this gave you good food for thought and helps you when now you're going to look at somebody, helping to break those characteristics down. Look at balance and proportion. Look at bone structure. Look at features and characteristics that they may carry. And I find for me as a makeup artist, when I learned this and I understood it, it really gave me total freedom. So I want to thank you so much for being with me again today. I'm so happy things are starting to open up a little bit more, not totally, but you know, we're hitting the other side of this, and have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Greatly appreciated. For those of you, I'm going to stay logged in for just a couple more minutes. If you have not done so already, please make sure that you are typing in your full name, full school name. Do not abbreviate your school name. Into the chat box along with your school location. A lot of schools have the same abbreviation, so I want to make sure that I'm sending your information to the correct school. So again, full name, full school name and location of your school in the chat box for attendance purposes. I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes to give you guys time to type that in the chat box. Liberty, I don't know what CNCC is. Please make sure you type in your full school name into the chat box so that we can get the attendance to the right school. I do not have these PowerPoints. These PowerPoints belong to Nancy. These are her, it's her presentation, but I am going to send the recording over to be uploaded to our YouTube page, which is Your New School, all one word, all capital. I'm not sure if it's going to get uploaded possibly tonight, if not tomorrow. This presentation will be on our YouTube channel. But unfortunately, these PowerPoints are not mine, so I cannot send those out with your certificates. So I will be logging off shortly. So if you have not done so already, please make sure that your full name, full school name, no abbreviations, are in the chat box, along with your school location, especially for schools that have multiple campuses, so that I am sending your attendance to the right school.